tired. Last but not least, gotta get some hip hop related news in the mix. Salute Shannon Sharp. This was actually from a few weeks, maybe even months ago at this point back. But they had Raekwon, the legend, the Wu Tang legend, on their platform. And obviously, whenever you have an OG of hip hop, you're gonna bump into a conversation about like the authenticity of hip hop today, and kind of spoiler alert. I don't know if I'm fully rocking with Ray on this one because it kind of these conversations are kind of set up to make somebody that's from the older generation of hip hop come off as just like somebody who I don't want to say he was like hating, but somebody who's like disconnected for a bit. But maybe you guys will have a completely different take on it. So I'm curious to know what you guys think.
You recently said hip hop doesn't feel authentic anymore. Do you?
Okay.
Is there in your mind? Is there ever a chance hip hop, rap, whatever the case may be, will it ever be what it once was?
Let me tell you something, Unc, and I want you to listen real clear. I don't know if
Okay.
others told you or like I told you. You see, this is why I call my album The Emperor's New Clothes.
Okay.
My album, The Emperor's New Clothes, is because The Emperor's New Clothes is a Dutch folktale about deception. The king got hoodwinked. He got hoodwinked. He's sitting there with all his vanity, and vanity turns into ego, and then next thing you know, you become weird. You start to forget the rules and principles because your ego is so big that at the end of the day, these guys came in to sell you some clothes that wasn't real. But you knew they wasn't real, but your ego allowed you to sit here and try something that really it wasn't right. So the bottom line, what I'm saying is we got to stop falling for sucker shit, for stupid shit, for shit that ain't hip hop that we classify as hip hop. What's the difference? What's the difference, Vlad? If I give you a shirt and I say, yo, try this shirt on and I ain't got nothing in my hand, common sense is gonna tell you, nigga, this ain't, yo, Ray, you ain't got nothing in your hand. Other nigga might be like, that's the shit, Ocho, put it on.
Right.
That's what's going on in the game today.
Yep.
Niggas make hip hop be something that we know it ain't, but you got niggas right next to you telling you it is what it is. So my thing is, don't get caught up in the deception.
So salute to Ray are already, one, you always gotta give people salutes for their passion. Also got I forgot he actually talks about like the in-depth meaning behind the album theme and title. And that's something like who I will give him credit, like who among like a newer generation of artists are putting that level of like getting that random story like ancient English random story and making a whole thematic album about it. So you definitely got to give a lot of credit for that. Lupe does a lot of that too. Like there'll be some random reference that's implemented into their art. Obviously, a lot of the artists that we rock with are prone to do stuff like this. But it seems like the base of his point that he's getting into is that what we're being sold to in this day and age, it's not authentic and it's not necessarily what the seller is pretending that it is that's what I'm gathering so far from. Are you guys gathering the same thing so far, on the same page, or?
Yep. Pretty much.
Okay, let's see what else he has to say.
Exceptions. So when I'm making my music, I gotta keep it hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Prime example, and this ain't shitting on nobody. Post Malone, right? I love him
Yeah.
as an
Proceeds to bring up
artist.
his
I
precision.
love him as an artist. You look him up in a dictionary or anything, Google, they call him an American rapper. Now, my thing is, when I think of Post Malone, he's singing all the time. Not
Yeah.
taking away from him saying that he can't rhyme or he
Right.
call that something else. You see what I'm saying? You see how
Right.
the white boys do the rock? You got contemporary rock, you got punk rock, you got this rock, you got hardcore rock, you got all these different titles. But when it come over here to hip hop, everything y'all niggas is calling fucking hip hop, it ain't hip hop, bro. That don't mean it ain't dope. I'm not taking nothing away from homie. I like him. I'm a fan. But
Yeah.
that's hip hop. You understand what I'm saying?
I feel you.
And
I
this
know
is not,
exactly what
Yo,
you're saying.
and this
I
is
know
not the
exactly what you're
single,
saying.
nobody. This is not the single. It's just like I said, we gotta preserve the culture, man, the best way we know how, man. Niggas gotta stop acting like they calling everything something that it's not, man. That's all I'm saying.
You re-
again, heavily salute to Raekwon. I'm on record. I am probably one of the biggest supporters of Wu Tang and everything that their legacy continues to be. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've all heard this type of debate, argument, case made hundreds of thousands of times. Almost to the point where, again, while I can heavily respect the messenger, I'm almost a bit surprised that we're still kind of toting this type of thought process around. It's almost like I almost feel as if I would have it. No matter how old I get, or how no matter unless I maybe I guess that's where the passion comes in. At a certain point in time, I would just be like, I mean, like I said before, I I don't know if I continue to rehash things that have been continuing to stated, continually. But I don't know if we've actually ever had an in-depth conversation about this on the podcast. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. You know, as Ray said, there should be a higher level of distinction in hip hop about what is actually classified as hip hop, whatever that means, because that gets into a whole conversation of like what is true hip hop, and obviously we know Wu Tang is hip hop, we know that much, but what the specific parameters of hip hop is, that can get a little murky. And yeah, there definitely is a passionate tonality to there should be some distinction in hip hop, as you mentioned. So I guess the first question that comes to mind, the main question that comes to mind is, you guys, before we even get to like some of the nitty gritty, do we even deem this as a problem? As he's kind of indicating as a problem, do we think it's hurtful when we kind of clump everything as hip hop, or do you think it really doesn't mean anything and or is beneficial to have a broad category of hip hop? We'll start with you, Ghost. What do you think?
I do think that this argument and whole discussion is a little recycled because it's been talked about for a long time, but I don't think that means it's wrong. Um, there is a lot of stuff that is being paraded as hip hop where it's not. I mean, personally, I've always been a fan of like in-depth classification of genres, mostly just from like a listener standpoint, because I just like knowing what I'm listening to and how it compares to other sub. I can find more of it, but from like a maintaining the culture standpoint, I mean, I don't know how much that part really matters because like if you know it's hip hop or if it doesn't fit your definition of hip hop, then why does it matter if other people outside the culture are calling it hip hop when you know it's not? Other people in the culture know it's not. That's kind of where the disconnect comes in for me for Raekwon's argument because I don't know that aspect of it. It's like, I'm I'm struggling to find a reason why that matters. But generally speaking, I do think there's some validity to his point.
Yeah, I'm largely on the same page. Do you find any I want to say validity? What do you make of like the analogy that he's posing and starting off with, of like there is some problem in like someone trying to say something that is truly not.
Uh like who's saying it? Because the way he kind of framed it is like if we're going up for Grammy nominations, Post Malone's being nominated for Best Hip Hop Album of the Year. That seems kind of like what he's talking about, and for me, it's like, who cares? Cause we would look at it and be like, they said that's hip
See, yeah,
hop, or they said
yeah,
that's R and
the
B,
rappers
or
that are trying to win the Grammy, yeah, they would care.
I mean, yeah, I'm not talking about just like the artists. I'm talking about just like I don't want to say like me, but kind of yeah. Like me and the people that I'm talking about this with. If we're not gonna have any arguments, oh no, this Post Malone album it said on Wikipedia it's hip hop, so we should have it at the end of the year list. Like I'm
That's actually a good
it,
point. That's
it,
actually a
it
relatable point.
like who the person that's saying it's hip hop, but the people that are making these generic arguments is like, why do we care what they have to say? Is really what this boils down to, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I said, I largely agree with you. I guess could you imagine a world in which like say like an artist is and this is like an impossible kind of scenario, but say an artist was trying to get you to listen to something, and they hand you the disc. they, they put you on some music and they say, "Hey, this is my new hip hop album," and you listen to it, and it doesn't got any 808s, it doesn't have any like rhyming. It's effect. It really just sounds like another genre by and large. And your first thought is, oh, this doesn't really sound like hip hop. But they are very firm standing on like, no, this is hip hop. This is my version of hip hop. Do you think like that you'd find a problem with that? You think you could
Um,
you think you'd end up going back and forth with them? Like, no, dog, it's not hip hop.
I mean, I probably would go back and forth with them. At the end of the day, it's like I'd walk away from that discussion and be like, this person is bugging. But I wouldn't really give it any more thought. I guess I will say that when I'm listening to like genre specific playlists, so like I'm like, okay, I want to listen to a good post rock album from 2025. I want to listen to a good album, indie album. Five. I want to listen to a good neo soul album, and I hear some bullshit that is not genre adjacent. I will get uh, a little tight about that just because it's like again it's kind of like an inconvenience to me. It's like why are they saying that this is something that it's not? But that's kind of as far as it goes. I wouldn't really. I'm just. I'm like for that example you gave, the person claiming his album's hip hop. He's gonna go down, assuming this is like some random just trying to sell his mixtape. He's gonna keep going down, talking to random people, and repelling the same argument. And I'm gonna know it's not hip hop, but at the end of the day, it's like even if he shows it to someone, damn, this is a good hip hop album. I will look at him crazy, but I'm just gonna kind of move on today because it's more about internally what I classify stuff as, and I wouldn't really care if it reached the charts as the number one hip hop album of the year if I like it's an internal thing that I know what it's not.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I'm definitely picking up what you're putting down. To be honest, that playlist example is probably one of the better examples of something that's relatably could impact somebody because in this day and age where like playlists are way more of a bigger thing, if you put on a playlist to hear a specific sound and then you start hearing something that's not reflective of what you intended to hear, that could be bothersome. But I mean, outside of that, like given the example I brought up, I'm kind of very like conscious of that. It's kind of like a wild hypothetical, but it's just to kind of get to the point of like what harm does truly come from somebody claiming something is when it's not. Um, and just to kind of understand like I mean just to understand like the passion that Ray has because again this seems to be a big deal if you were to get take if you were to take something away from what he's saying. Um, but what about you, Ace? And I don't know if any examples kind of change your answer one way or the other. Yeah, but yeah, first, do you think it harms anything you the broader aspect of hip hop for everything and anything to be included in the category of hip hop? Do you think it's potentially helpful? This what do you make of this?
Um, I think I think that this is kind of a lost cause in trying to like
Uh oh.
protect the sanctity of hip hop. Um, like at the end of the day, it's going to evolve whether we like it or not, whether Raekwon or like the founding rappers like it or not, it's going to change. So trying to hold on to a definition and like force that definition on others and like classification on others is truly a lost cause. You're kind of just like yelling at the sky, in my opinion. And this is from somebody who was like,
Old man yells at the clouds.
I used to be this way more so. But yeah, it's it's um it's kind of pointless. And I would say too, like he said, he brought up, Post Malone as an example. I would want to know what exactly makes Post Malone not hip hop, and like what are your exact classifications, uh, in
Well, he
order
said
for us
like,
to even.
well, he said he brought up like the singing aspect, so it probably is probably one of the first categories. You have to be rapping.
Okay, 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 you could say that, but then yeah, like I think if somebody is going to come with this argument at this point, they truly do have to come with like a full,
The metrics, yeah.
yeah, metric definition. Like I need documentation at this point, and then we can at least have some type of argument around something. But just to keep rehashing this, you know hip hop is dying or changing or it's not, these things aren't hip hop, this is, it's, there's no point to it to me. And I do think, like Ghost said, the example of like the playlists and categorization from a listener standpoint, um I can certainly see that as being a case for um um being able to, easily find new music or create playlists of this, of similar music. I think that's a valid thing, but it becomes, I think it becomes argumentative because to somebody like a Raekwon, it feels like it's more than just um uh classification from a listener standpoint. It feels like they're angry because they're losing something that, like losing an aspect of the culture, or that it's getting diluted or changing in a way that they don't see fit. And that's where it's like nobody's gonna really, no or not many, I would say, from the new generation, especially of listeners, are gonna care that much. So you almost like, if you're not coming with just a pure genre classification type discourse, it's just going to continue to fall on deaf ears. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion. Like I see the benefit in having genres and subgenres, um to be able to listen to what you want to listen to, find what you want to hear. But outside of that, I think like it's a lost cause trying to just protect hip hop because it's, supposed to be pure and that type of mentality. I don't think it's I don't think it's worth going out of your way to try to do that. You're just gonna sound like an old man.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, you got to spin. I'm picking up everything you guys went down, and yeah, that's what I think it largely boils down to. And maybe, to be honest, maybe you can make the case he's not necessarily speaking for just like the average consumer or listener. Maybe he's kind of speaking towards like this is something that's problematic for artists. Um, Again, it's, I think to your point, I think you'd have to bring and obviously the problem with that is once we start getting into definitions, like even that can be argued. Like someone could say like, in order to do rapping, you have to have this many bars or lines, whatever the case may be. But what does it mean to rap? Um, if you have one, if you have like two bars in the song, does that automatically make it a rap? And then is it hip hop now? So
Mhm.
I think it could the conversation can continue to extend to a point where like it's gonna be one thing where there's not gonna be a large consensus on it, or maybe there could, but there's a likelihood for it not to be. But I think if the person that's passionate about it or speaking on it does provide some level of metrics, I think we can at least start to understand their perspective, and then we can start to work around that. Off right now, we're working on like, okay, you're saying it's hard, you're saying it's harmful, you're saying it's a problem, but most people don't agree with that or don't feel that harm, and everything else that goes into it.
What- One thing I wonder is why this is such an maybe we I feel like we've kind of talked about this before, but why is this such an issue in something like hip hop or rap where we don't have many subgenres per se that especially that people would agree on versus like you know like all the subgenres of rock. I don't think anybody's really arguing if you place them into whatever punk, metal, new metal, hardcore. Like I feel like it's just kind of yeah, that's what you sound like, so that's what we're gonna put you in.
I think it. You're largely right. There are some subgenres I can think of off the top of my head that do kind of get into the real nitty gritty of you shouldn't classify it like this. Kind of like almost that sense of being offended. But yeah, I think overall you are right.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, truly speaking, when we talk about hip hop as like a super like broad category, before we started the podcast, when I was looking out some new records, like there is like these some genres of hip hop, like trap is obviously a big one these days, drill, like chill wave, what was there was a other one I saw 'cause I was trying to identify specifics, cloud rap. There are definitely some of these
Yeah,
things.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
It's just like we don't really often like talk about them. And to be honest, when we're talking about hip hop, broadly speaking, like there's the base level of hip hop, which a lot of people do end up falling under, and then it just kind of boils down to rap and then R&B.
Yeah.
Like those,
Yeah.
that's really what you're gonna
Yeah.
get. Um, and again, I can see honestly the biggest victims, and I'm using victim very liberally. I'm not no one's a victim, but the biggest people that could be affected by this is truly artists if they're up to win like an award or if you should be in a playlist or a spot where somebody else is in it now, but they don't necessarily fit that description as much as you do. To be honest, um, this brings some context. I don't know if this is harmful or helpful, and it's kind of crazy to think to say I'm about to list everybody that's ever won a Grammy for best rap album, but in the grand scheme of things, it started in 1996, so there's only like 20 or 35 of them. So just to give, if and no one here by any means is saying that the Grammys is the metric for what's rap, to be clear, but just to give an idea. So in 1996, and I'm not going to say the year for everyone, but in 1996, Naughty by Nature actually won. They won over Tupac and ODB,
That's
which is interesting.
insane.
Interesting. Fuji's won the next year. Puffy, or Diddy, he won that. He won. Jay Z won. Eminem won. Eminem won the year after that. Outkast won. Eminem won again the year after that. Outkast won the year after that. Finally, Kanye came in. He won, and he won the next one. Then Ludacris won. So it's Luda. Kanye came. Kanye won the one after that. Wayne, so it's Lil Wayne. He won the year after that. Then it was Eminem. It was Eminem again. It was Kanye again. Then we reached Drake. Drake won his first one. Oh, this is probably one of the most controversial one in 2014.
Macklemore.
Macklemore won. Y'all remember that? He beat
Jesus
out
Christ.
he infamously beat out Kendrick, Good Kid, Mad City. Oh my
Texted
gosh.
him afterwards.
Yeah. Not only did he beat Kendrick, which was already the most offensive thing ever, he beat Jay Z, Drake, and Kanye. Oh man, everybody was dancing to that thrift shop song. So hey man, the year after that, Eminem won, Kendrick won, Chance won, Kendrick won again.
What?
Chance, wait,
Chance, you
wait,
said
for
Yes,
coloring
Chance
book?
has a Grammy?
yes, for coloring
For
book.
coloring book?
Don't come on here. Listen, first of all, coloring book is a phenomenal album, and second of all, he was up against
Phenomenal is crazy.
he was up against Khaled, Drake, Schoolboy Q, Kanye, and De La Soul.
Sounds like a
But
lot of artists that could have went into.
people didn't like Khaled at that time. They still don't like Khaled. That blank face album, I listen. I don't think
Blank Face had some
I
bangers, bro.
I don't
It
think this
had some
Schoolboy Q's best
bangers.
work. I like Life of Pablo. A lot of people don't. A lot of people like Views. I actually don't think it. I don't think it's just a bar for bar better album than Chances. And then De La Soul. De La Soul is kind of like a legacy album that would have been nice if they won, but it would have been. It just wasn't. It just wasn't going to beat some of the other ones. But anyway, that sound like y'all starting to sound like Raekwon. Like, who do you mean Chances winning a hip hop album? After that, it was Kendrick. After that, is another kind of controversial one, but again, there wasn't too many. Actually, to be honest, the fact that this won over Nipsey Hussle's album, Cardi B actually won one with her album. Tyler the Creator won with his album, and to be honest, I don't know if it's more so reflective on me, but whenever these conversations come up, I even though like at this point Tyler and a lot of the former or future members are respected, I feel as if they would at one point, and they were at one point, like they were completely rejected from hip hop. Like nobody was trying to claim that that's hip hop. So the
Yep,
fact that
100%.
so this is kind of
I'm like,
feeling.
well, Kanye was rocking with him.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But to be honest, at one point, people I don't know if someone would ever say Kanye's in hip hop, but some of the
you know,
stuff,
you're right. Yeah, yeah.
some of the stuff that he was rapping about, and yes, he famously said they weren't rocking with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
After that, in 2021, Nas won his first one. Crazy.
that's
After
insane.
that, it was Tyler again. After that, it was Kendrick again. Kendrick won. I think Kendrick won for every album except Good Kid, Mad City. It's the craziest part.
He
Um,
won one for
Yeah.
not
uh
the entitled, not the entitled, but
no,
yeah,
the
To Pimp a Butterfly, Damn, and
why am I
uh,
blanking? The,
Mr. Morale and Big Steppers.
Big stuff.
yeah, he
Yeah.
won one for that. Eh.
Yeah, he beat out Kyle. He beat out DJ Khaled, Future, Jack Harlow. People would have been pissed if Jack Harlow won for sure. And after that, Killer Mike, salute to Killer Mike. He won
Oh, yeah.
one. And last but not
Mhm.
least, last year, Doechii came in and completely stole the show
Damn, I forgot Doechii.
with her one.
That's shocking. I mean, it was worthy, but that's shocking.
Now, if you ask me, again, I think to this overall point, first and foremost, a lot of these artists at one point in time, and maybe for some of them for good reason, sorry, Macklemore, they wouldn't have been considered hip hop. It's like through like the evolution of hip hop and all that jazz. Some of these artists are obviously most of it is pretty on point. That's my second point. A lot of this, to be honest, is kind of consistent with what we would say is like a hip hop rap album. Obviously, salute to Cardi B, but Cardi B being in the mix and Macklemore, and I can understand what you guys say when Chance went over some other things. That kind of mix it up, but for the most part, even if you don't agree with who won that year, um, a lot of this is just bar for bar hip hop and rap. So I don't know if
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know if that gives the Grammy
yeah.
more credit or it's just a matter of that's what else would win. But um, I don't know. This is obviously a conversation that could go on for hours, and when we don't have time for that. And two, it is a conversation that it's been had probably. I bet you like literally like there was like the first crew that started rapping, and then when they found out there was another crew that was rapping, I know for a fact within that first year where hip hop was accepted, someone said, "No, that ain't real rap." I know for a fact somebody said that. That ain't real hip hop. I know. I just know. But
Yeah.
obviously, I think there are some times where there's merit to this. I think again, they're not the most crazy examples, but there is merit to the conversation of like what should be in a category because if something's truly not. If I'm gonna say Nirvana
Damn, you know what's crazy?
because Nirvana is the first rock band.
People definitely said Wu-Tang ain't hip hop back in the
Wu-Tang?
day.
That's
I'm
that's an
sure of it.
overreaction.
I
I'm
don't know.
sure of it. I'm sure of it.
I don't know
Wu-Tang must have
about that
sounded
one.
crazy back in the day to some of the old heads. Like, come on, what are we talking about?
That I find hard. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Compared
I
to
don't. I
Run
don't think so.
DMC, it was out. Come on, guys.
It wasn't.
but
They were a decent enough time afterwards. Because I think not Big Daddy. Well, Big Daddy came too, but I feel like when Rakim was like he was on the come up after Run DMC, and he kind of started like the whole renaissance of hip hop.
Mhm.
I feel like after Rakim's projects came out, nah, Wu Tang wouldn't have been that
I
No,
awkward.
can
yeah,
actually
no,
see
no.
what
I
you're
think
saying,
I think
Ace.
they were.
Just
I
because
don't
of
think so,
the
man. I don't think
the
so.
the distinct like theatrics and difference in culture that they put in the music. But once you get past the skits, they were just pure rapping. Yeah,
I
Yeah,
know they
what-
were. I know they were, but you had to get past that, and they sound super abrasive compared to anything else at the time.
I don't know,
Super
man.
abrasive.
that might have
Just
been like
wild, like
that would have been like one super OG that's like don't budge
nah.
under it. All
I'm
right.
pretty sure it was the consensus, and I bet you if we talk to our pops about it, or uncles, like I think this would be probably the consensus. Was like when
For
they came out.
Wu Tang of all groups,
Yes,
I don't think
Wu-Tang
like
that's
I
a
think you
hard
could
Wu-Tang
one.
specifically.
almost any
Not
other like you could
Nas,
say.
Nas. Okay, yes, Nas. He's
Now, what about West Coast rap, G rap? You tell me, or G funk?
Yeah,
You're
I
telling me
think
that, or
I
like
think Wu-Tang
Southern rap, like
specifically.
Outkast? Come on,
I think
like
Wu Tang
that.
specifically is hard to call it on because I think New York was just kind of solidified. Like I don't think nobody from New York was getting that. Yeah, this isn't really hip hop until like later.
Yeah,
But yeah,
even even jazz rap, like Tribe Called Quest, Fugees, even Miseducation. I have a feeling that a lot of people do not think of Miseducation as a pop album until as kind of like I don't want to say modern take, but a lot of people just would have thought of it as R. I for Wu
I could,
Tang,
I
I
can,
don't know.
I'm almost
I can think of a lot
certain.
of
We gotta
Wu-Tang.
go back and look at some like articles or something because I'm sure Wu Tang was heavily debated when they first dropped when they first came
If
out.
anyone ever,
Like, out of
if
nowhere.
anyone ever did, then that means anyone is susceptible to get that. Like this isn't hip hop because I Wu Tang is hip hop. Like it's just like Wu Tang is hip hop.
Like they were definitely
Just the moment.
revolutionary in like the whole way they came together and the super group and like the sample, the themes, the samurai, the Japanese culture. Like sure, but at the end of the day, it's like you cannot get more hip hop than this thing.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think they redefined it.
I
think
don't even know if
back
I'd
in the
say
day.
that. I don't know if I'd say that. Like,
I think that's why they're so. I mean, I won't say that's why they're so influential, but it's probably the reason why Wu Tang jumps out at us as being so.
They're influential because they came up with the greatest abbreviation.
yeah, like a top five, top 10
in
album of all
hip hop.
time. But I feel like if we're talking innovation, if anything, it would be Rakim because he innovated that whole golden era of hip hop. It was him. If anything,
But it wasn't.
it'd
It
be
wasn't
him.
a break from. It wasn't a significant. It didn't
A
feel.
break from like Run DMC, Grandmaster
It was
Flash,
an
and that whole.
improvement. It was a. It was a. It was a. It was
No,
a
okay.
galactic improvement. But
I actually have
don't think
talked
it-
to my dad about this.
Okay.
And he kind of co-signed the fact that when Rakim came out, it was like a whole new, like people were just shocked and caught off guard because, again, like rappers weren't, people weren't rapping like Rakim was rapping. Like it was not anywhere close to that level. It's like you had like the iconic hip hop tracks, like the hop, like,
Yeah.
but it was kind of more, I don't want to say dance oriented, but it was not what
Definitely more dance.
Rakim made it at all. And then he kind of revolutionized it. And then again, when you get to the 90s, that's when everything really shifted. But I feel like a lot of that was his influence. I feel like Wu-Tang compared to him, it really would not have been like that off-putting. Like I think the biggest argument for that would go to West Coast rap.
Yeah.
Like when Dr. Dre really was on the come up, and
once you start going to other regions,
I think Snoop Dogg particularly, like when he started really, because that whole, no one was really operating like he was, like that whole the style, like kind of laid back, and it's like, and the way Dre was producing, I think that's a lot. What was NWA? Because NWA, they were kind of precursors to Wu-Tang, right? I would think, and like I would think that Wu-Tang was more reminiscent of NWA than
I don't know the
they were
timing.
NWA
But
is
I don't know the timing,
early
but
90s, like damn near 90s.
yeah. So
yeah,
Wu-Tang was what they were. What were they? 93? Was that when Enter the
93, 94.
Yeah, 93. So it was right around that time.
I think you're
I feel
definitely on base with, like, once we get to other regions. That's probably when you start to hear the more like, this is not hip hop or this is something else conversations.
Yeah, like Southern rap. We
definitely.
know for a fact that OGs were in heavy on.
I don't want to get stuck on this, even though we could. These are kind of conversations that can just go on all night. Something happened recently. I think it was something Young Thug said, and obviously, speaking of artists, that people that say it's not hip hop. He says when he was in jail and when all those leaked phone calls were coming out, I think he said something negative about Outkast, and like, and the thought that came to my mind is like the South gets that that like this ain't hip hop or this is something different. But you gotta salute this Outkast, because whenever I think of like people that put on for the South and put on for like Atlanta, I feel as if even if you don't really rock with Outkast because they don't do as much, they don't put out as much as others. I feel Outkast by single handedly like made such an impact. Just outside, even I mean obviously the music, but hey man, Outkast went up there and said famously said the South got something to say, and look at hip hop now. Like, it's continually been Southern dominant and just being the most influential. But that still goes to the point where like I even being young, I can remember some of those like it's crazy because it was kind of like an easy integration. Like there were so many people that like living in our areas and even in New York that like they're rocking with Jeezy and Ludacris, probably even more so than I do. But and Ti as well, but it's just like even I kind of remember some of the conversations were like, I mean they're not rappers like Nas, they're not rappers like Jay-Z, so it's really it's really interesting, how like I think I don't want to say every artist, but like a lot of artists who will go to that where like people are gonna maybe not reject their music, but say it's not the what is the expression? It's not the it's not the real deal. Like, it's by and large what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so to Ray. I mean, I guess if anything, these conversations, I think people just like to hear OG's thoughts on like what the modern sound is, whether it's like positive or negative or neutral. I think that's really where these questions kind of stand from.
It is very, very interesting, because again, they grew up in it and they were pioneers in it. And as long as it's not just like pure hating, it's always interesting to get that different perspective versus us who kind of grew up with it already established in some ways.
Yeah, and to be honest, I would never accuse like Shannon of this, but I think some platforms are looking for OGs to kind of hate just so they can continue to get that footage or those clips.
Yeah,
here go the OGs hating again, so it can start even more kind of conversation.
It's like NBA discourse. They get an old legend on the mic, and it just spurs a whole lot of interaction when they hate on the modern game.
Yeah. So yeah, I I think one of the biggest moral stories. These conversations are fine to have, and while they are kind of a bit like recycled, like we said, there can be some productivity to them. Um, but I do hope, like, if in a year we come back and Raekwon's on the Breakfast Club Hot 97 saying this, or multiple years from now saying the same thing, then maybe we might look at it like, oh, all right, maybe maybe
Old
we're
man yells at cloud. Yeah, we're back
again.
again.
But for now, we can leave it there unless there's anything else and move on.